Hello, my name is Wes Jones, and this is my channel on how to draw fantasy maps. In this episode, we're going to look at coastlines, or more specifically, coastal effects. Now, coastal effects serve two primary purposes, two functions. One is artistic. By doing certain things with those coastal effects, you can really add a certain flair to the map. And the other is to help distinguish the land from the water. If you look at this right now, this coastline, you don't know whether on the left hand side this is an island or whether it's a lake, and conversely on the right hand side you don't know if this is an island or lake. There really is nothing that allows you to know what is what at this point. So coastal effects help you really separate the water from the land. So in this video I'm going to show you how to draw coastal rings in 4 steps. And coastal rings are those rings that kind of look like waves that surround the coast. Okay, so what are those 4 steps? Let's make a new layer. Step number 1. We'll write that out. Step 1. And we're going to determine that this side of the map is going to be the water. Step number 1 is to determine how far you want those rings to extend or go away from the coast. You can do that by testing a little bit. I like drawing in an area. Sometimes I'll draw a little bit longer and saying, okay, how far do we think we want those to go? And once you've got a general idea, you want to do a couple of things, like a new layer. I like to at least know approximately, you can draw this very quickly. If this is your first time, you might want to take a little bit more time. You know approximately how far these rings are going to go from the coast. We'll put that on a different layer. And we'll make those a little bit more transparent. This just gives you a rough guide. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is to draw the most inner line first. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to turn that off, and I'm going to make that even more transparent. I don't really want to see much of that. Almost completely gone. I'll start a new layer. And this coastline was drawn probably with the, I think I have it here, the 25 point pen. I like going from thick to thin. So this first inner coastal area, let's go down to 20. And I know how far I want to go out approximately, and what I'll do is I'll start drawing that line. And I'll draw it pretty fast for the sake of this video, but what I'm going to do is draw this line completely. I don't start the next one just behind it. I like drawing the first line first, then we're going to do 3 lines, then the second line, and then the third line. So keep drawing. Go around the bend. Let's just undo that. Go around the bend. You have to decide sometimes what you want to do in areas. Now this one's quite far from the coast, but occasionally you can see here that probably come back out here. If there's a big enough gap, you can do something like that out if you want, just to give it an idea that that area is a bigger bay. Now here, look what I did here. I went around there, so I'm going to draw that again. I didn't squeeze through here and then draw another one around like here. It doesn't look right. It looks better like that because there's no room to draw this line all the way through here. Draw around. You can see it went a little tight there. Maybe redo that line later, and so on and so forth. I won't draw the full coastline. Now I can draw around this island here. This little island over here. And I can also do the lake. Gives you an idea that there's a lake here. Well, that's step number 2. Step number 3, basically the same as the one we just did. Write it out though. Step number 3 is to draw the next level of line, the next coastal effect, the next line that extends from the coastline. I like going down to a smaller pen. Let's go to 15, and I'll start Now you can make a decision here if you want this to be evenly spaced from the other lines. There's so many different things you can do artistically. I'm going to keep this about the same distance away. I'll draw this a little bit quicker just so we can get through all the steps. And you see I can't go all the way down there. That wouldn't look right. Just peeks in a little bit. And what you're going to find is each level of those rings is become a little bit more generalized than the last one. You can't do quite the same things. There we go, around there. Might do something like that around this island. You can see my guide there behind. I'm within it still, so I'm happy enough with that. Go around here, and I'm drawing this very quickly, obviously. That one's a little bit bigger, and I'd clean that up if I had to. Oh, that's the next one, and let's do the last step. Step 4. What's step number 4? Was to draw that last line. Instead of drawing that same line again, I'm going to show you something that I often do. I'll make this, let's make this 10 point, make it even smaller. Very often with that last line, I'll do an effect where I'll break it up where it's just dots. This helps you establish that it almost looks like the waves are farther from the coastline. That's how I like looking at it. I'll go this fairly quickly. Now here, same thing. I might get by doing something like that, but when you have these things touch in this area, it doesn't look quite right. So I'll undo that and I'll come back around here, make those attach. It gives you the idea that these are obviously separate, but there might be some shallows here that allow some kind of crossing. Draw it around the edge. Draw these ones. We're almost done. There's obviously no room in the lake over here. Drawing your lines at the same pace from beginning to end is really important. I find that you sometimes can get sloppy and go a little faster if you're rushing at the end. And there you have it. There you've got a coastal ring technique. Just to show you what the land would look like with a little bit of color, we can add that in. But by doing this, you don't necessarily need to add in any color to your map. If I go like this, you can see that that's some land area, land, and conversely, make this a little bit darker blue. And there you can see the ocean and the lake. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've learned something about making some coastal effects. If you want to learn more, I have a website called fantasymapping.com, and I also have a book on how to draw fantasy maps called Fantasy Mapping Drawing Worlds, and you can get to that link in the description. I look forward to our next episode. Bye.